going on a trip.
I know, someday.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the Salon podcast. This is episode 0. Yeah, it's our pilot episode, essentially. Today with us, we have Kevin Acevedo.
Yep, I am here.
Drew Miller.
So,
Samuel Medina.
howdy.
Adrian Gonzalez.
So.
And then myself, Hunter Ford. A salon is a enlightenment ideal where a group of like-minded thinkers and or people of different ideas would come together and they would have a discussion, whether that be on a philosophical platform or just kind of a communal thing where they would just discuss what's going on around them. And we kind of want to create that same sort of platform through this podcast. We want to create a discussion-based thing where we just get together and we kind of come up with a broad idea to discuss. This week,
I think it's important to note that none of us here are philosophy or anthropology majors.
That's a good point.
We're just kind of just talking.
So this is
We're great minds thinking alike.
this is basically ground zero for these ideas. We are like what we want to discuss. Philosophy and culture in a modern age, how it affects the everyday person.
Mm-hmm. And if you either agree or don't agree with us, or just want something to say about the podcast or what we're talking about, by all means, let us know, because we're always willing to take back. We're always willing to take in feedback so we can better improve ourselves and talk about it more.
Backfeed.
Did I say backfeed?
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that's a good point for him. So whenever you have something else to say, or you have something to say at all about what we're talking about, feel free, like Kevin said, to just say something about it, and hopefully we can get back to you on it. Today on the podcast, our first topic of discussion is going to be about love, life and happiness.
Yeah, a bunch of single guys talking about love.
Yeah.
So I think we should definitely start off with everyone's definition of love and whether we think love has value or not. And I think we should start with Kevin Acevedo.
Oh, well, as someone who's been heartbroken numerous... I'm kidding. No, just a few times. But I think, my definition of love is defined as a deep caring for somebody else, one that you wouldn't normally feel for other people.
Hunter Ford?
I kind of see love in the same view. I think love is just kind of the feeling that you have where you would kind of just lay everything out for a person. You kind of just would do anything for a person. And so, I think love is kind of that unmovable type of emotion that you can't really affect or waver.
Adrian Gonzalez?
Well, there's multiple definitions of love, and in my opinion, love is sort of a motivation, like a passion, not for just a person, but for a thing, or even a place. So, any sort of nouns, verbs, it's crazy.
Right. Yep. Drew Miller?
I don't think love has a definition. I think it's just something that you feel, and is love. Even if you don't call it love, you're like, oh, I love that. That's how I think of it.
Felt that.
So what you think of love is that it's different for every person.
Yeah.
In terms of how you would define it or what you would consider love.
Right, because like Adrian said, it's not just like people. It's just like you may love roller coasters, but someone else may not like them that much.
Yeah,
It's a good point.
I hate roller coasters.
Well, Sam, how do you define love?
Well, I define love as exactly what you said.
Here we go.
Deep caring for someone or something, But to me, love definitely has a very big connection to happiness. Because when you love someone, if you truly love someone, anything or someone or something, any moment or anything you spent with that person has to be defined with happiness. Whether they treat you right or not, you care for them regardless of what's going on. A loveless life is a meaningless life, I think.
Oh, wow.
So I hope you're in love.
No, you didn't come up with that. Who said that?
Spinoza?
Spinoza said that, yeah.
Who is Spinoza?
Well, I don't know. Ford, take it away.
I'm gonna quote this man, but I don't know who it is.
So Spinoza was God. I can't think of the year off the top of my head, but he was well known kind of throughout the Enlightenment era of kind of creating this idea of there isn't necessarily a God, but there's something that affects the universe. And so he definitely tried the Jewish religion, and he didn't necessarily agree with what the Jewish religion had said. And so a lot of what he was focusing on was kind of just not necessarily against it, but just him kind of creating his own path and his own idea. And then in the meantime, he kind of just had his own feelings and emotions towards the philosophy of love. And
what were those his feelings or emotions towards love?
well, like Sam said, you know, a loveless life is a meaningless life. So that idea in particular, you know, and I think that's an interesting thing to say, especially during this time period where people weren't particularly thinking about love, but more so, you know, this introduction of science and more so where religion was in relation to science. And so him taking the time to really self-evaluate on a pretty strong emotion like love was definitely interesting. And so and I almost would like to agree with what he said, because a loveless life is meaningless, because I feel like love kind of gives us this form of purpose. It gives us something to kind of thrive for and drive.
It kind of depends on how we go back to the definition, because if it's just like oh, I'm in love with the person, that may not seem like it has meaning, but to them it does. And even if it's just a thing, like if you're in love with doing something like your job, if you love your job, it gives you meaning.
We love our jobs, right?
We love jobs.
Can I get an I if you like your job? If you love your job?
Yeah, can we get a type 1 in the...
I actually enjoy my job.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice place.
All right.
I love
Well, I think one of the biggest, we can't talk about love because, one, we're single, and two, we can definitely discuss our past
Some of
experiences.
us weren't single.
So we can definitely discuss our past experiences. And I think the perfect
As of right
candidate
now,
to start,
we're all pointing towards Adrian.
Adrian Gonzalez.
He got the saucy story for us.
Take it away.
Wait, hold up. Should we? Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. Go ahead.
Should we
Well,
what?
no, because you know our friends and families are gonna, you know, be hearing. Hey
Don't
guys,
say any
what's up?
names. Don't say any names.
Don't say names. That's what I was gonna.
well-
Yeah, so we're gonna exclude names as much as we can.
I gotta admit, all my previous relationships were practice relationships until this one. So I gotta admit, probably the best relationship in my life. It was nice, you know. We did that thing where, like, you say you're gonna FaceTime them, like, all night, and you fall asleep at, like, 10 p.m.
But you fall asleep together.
Yeah.
Over FaceTime.
Over me snoring, like, increasingly loud. Like, it's just bad. Like, it's like... like that.
That's you snoring.
I got the microphone, like, right here.
Well, if it's the best relationship that you've ever had.
Why do you say it is the best relationship?
Why it's the best is because I felt like...
Did you love her?
Yeah, definitely. I felt like it had meaning. Every moment, like, I was with her had meaning. And to me, like, every morning I'd wake up, like, thinking, wow, someone loves me, and I think I want to pass this on, like, this sort of emotion, this meaning of purpose to other people. Because if someone feels loved after, like, not being loved, they'll be happy in a certain manner, you know? Like, motivation. Getting a good morning or good night kiss, dude, I would sleep so well. Like, my mom, she'd give me a good night kiss. I'd be like, oh my god. I would sleep so good.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
My mom, like, sometimes now I'll be like, it'll be like 1 a.m. I'll be not asleep. I'll just be laying there unconscious, but, like, you know, still, whatever the word is, when you're aware but you can't move. Sleep paralysis. And then
God.
she'll just come up. She'll just come up to me, kiss me on the forehead, and be like, "I love you." I'm like, oh, "I love you too."
Sam, is everything okay at home?
Yeah, okay. But Adrian, oh no.
I was gonna ask you, how long were you guys dating?
It's pretty fair amount of time, in my opinion. My longest relationship. Okay, so it lasted over 3 months, by the way. Over 3.
Okay.
And,
I think that's a round of applause.
thank
worthy.
you guys.
Well, in that case, why did you guys break up if everything seemed to be going so well?
Well, a lot, really. Most of that stuff is just kind of dealing with the future. Like, I want to have a future where I can think mostly on myself because, one, I just started college. 2, I have almost a full-time job now. 3, I'm going on essentially on a road trip every weekend. And I got a shit ton of homework. A lot. Sorry for the foul language. It's a lot. Every single day. Oh my god, please help me.
So every weekend you're just driving out of
Yeah,
town?
me and some friends, we go out.
So it was a
do some
focus
band
on
stuff.
you. It was a thing that you did, so you can focus on yourself.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Oh.
I
Can't wait to hear about that. But in my opinion, I feel really bad because, one, it was genuinely the best relationship of my life, and I would probably have never been happier in my life when I was with her.
So you were the one who broke up with her?
Yeah.
Gotcha. But I mean,
I really feel bad about it because it's just like I had no like intentions of like ruining her life, and I fear that one
so
day
you ruined her life?
No, I fear that like she's gonna be completely different. Like she was gonna be a completely different person. But I mean, it's taken a toll both on me and her because I feel like I've like lost a piece of myself because I shared so many great memories with her.
Yeah.
And, you know.
So it was so the main proponent was just. I mean, how was she feeling about the whole situation? You know, I mean, because
she was definitely understanding, but.
But was she affected by a lot of the time that you spent away? Was that something that you noticed, which is kind of
the
precursor to breaking up?
We used to. How do I say it? We were very close. Like almost every single day we'd hang out, and until a point where it was getting late at night. I'm like mentally like I've been starting to like just like get like really sick and like tired all the time. I kind of just didn't want to like let it out because you know we're like almost adult men. We want to beat our wives now.
No, none of that.
Can't relate.
Oh wait, Pop. Just kidding. Okay, we get grumpier. Because you know
We'll edit that
hormones
out.
down there.
Just leave like that part. Just like have suddenly like a piece of silence.
I honestly just don't want to like get to a point where I'm getting like stressed out trying to hang out with her, and it's like I don't want to do that, and I feel really bad.
Yeah,
because.
So far, last time I was in a relationship.
Oh shit!
Oh,
Moving to
Kevin.
Kevo.
Wait,
Kevin?
Hey, am I allowed to transition? To
I mean, no.
Were
yeah.
you wearing the Homestuck hoodie during the
Okay, we can cut that part out too, right? But yes, I was. Probably why she broke up. So this is probably around the beginning of my last year of high school, and we started dating, and I think one problem that I have is being afraid of commitment and not being willing to, not being able to invest romantically like that loving relationship. So most of the time when we hung out, it was I wouldn't say as bros, but it wasn't as like a usual relationship.
One of the guys.
And I think when she broke up with me was just the fact that I was trying to balance a very heavy workload senior year along with being in a relationship, and it just wasn't working out. My grades were plummeting, and I was just getting stressed out in general because on top of school, a relationship, and a job. She was definitely able to notice, and she's like, "Hey, Kevin, your life is like falling apart, and it's affecting me. So I think it's best that we just kind of break up." And I said, "Haha, yeah, okay." So we broke up. We said goodbye, and I just kind of stopped talking to her after that. But I think one thing about love is you just can't go go all in for love, because if I were to do that, I'd have to basically drop school and maybe even drop my job just so I can be happy with someone. And to an extent, maybe, but at the main time, like how Adrian said, you need to focus on yourself as well. You need to love yourself before you can go ahead and love others.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's a very fair point.
That's the thing. Like, okay, not just women, but also men tend to like have that like, I'm only in a relationship so I can feel better about myself.
Yeah.
While making another person feel better. It's not really good because but the first 3 weeks it'll be like awesome, but then you really realize it's like, wow, I'm only in for this because I feel bad and they feel bad and we make each other feel better. That's not really good.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of, especially at our age, and kind of just us, especially in the high school type of years, is that, I mean, we're all kind of just stressed out, anxious about things, and we just want to take our minds off of the reality of our life that we're trying to balance and figure out in the midst of the process of us trying to figure out love with another individual. And so, you know, it creates that stress and kind of just that weird situation where you're just in for it to just make each other feel better, more so than it is just trying to understand and further, like, understand one another on a more deeper and emotional level.
I don't think in like high school especially still around our age, I don't think that we truly know what love is.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I think that it's going to take a long time, like, to figure it out with someone else, and then you're going to understand, oh, this is love.
Yeah. Like, there's, like, a value to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it changes, like, the longer, like, you realize, like, more relationships, or however long your relationship lasts, like, the value, like, either it becomes, like, you treasure it, or it can be, like, you know, just a quarter in your wallet.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a really good point.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to really value love because, you know, everyone does have their different definitions of it.
Mhm.
But, like, if we're going to talk about, if, you know, high schoolers don't really know love, then what about those high schoolers that, you know, get into a relationship and basically live the rest of their lives together?
And it's,
Yeah.
Like, are we
Was
going
it
to
that
invalidate
Yeah.
that?
They have children. They never once like
High school sweetheart.
like there was no infidelity ever, like all of that. But well, while we're talking about love, right? How do we categorize love? Do you categorize love? Because there's, I mean, you don't love your girlfriend the same way you love your mom, do you?
No.
Right?
Unless we're
yeah,
in
fuck my
Arkansas.
mom.
So and that's exactly why I was asking for the definition of love, because to me love is just a very deep caring for something, someone, someplace, right?
Yeah.
But being romantically attracted to someone doesn't necessarily mean you love them,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you love someone,
It can be strictly platonic.
yeah, okay, like, or like I was saying when he said focus on yourself. My last relationship, I broke up with her specifically for that reason. It was an amazing relationship. There were no issues ever. We both very much enjoyed each other's company, but I didn't want it to get. It's exactly what he said. I didn't want it to get to a point where I would stress out just by hanging out with them. And there's nothing wrong with them.
Mhm.
It's just the way life is unfolding, especially at our age, transitioning from high school to college, and eventually real life. And some people would argue that college is where your real life starts.
I mean, in the sense of kind of just like your independency and
Yeah.
freedom, but I mean, I wouldn't say real life
Dude,
start.
that's a topic in itself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, when in my last relationship, she broke up with me, and it was kind of just after. I think she felt more of that stress than I did. So I put a lot of my emotions on the back burner, and really just spent a lot of my time trying to focus on how to make her feel better throughout things. Because I mean, she worked her ass off throughout school. Like, you know, she worked hard to get where she was at, and even to this day, I'm pretty sure she works hard every day to get where she's going. And so, you know, she had a lot of that stress on her mind, and just she weighed a lot of that onto her, you know. And on top of just doing other things with herself, you know, she was in clubs galore, you know, she played a sport, and I didn't have that much on my plate, you know. I would do school, and then I just go home, and that was it.
Game.
I'd go home and be a gamer. But that was pretty much the bulk of my load. And so a lot of that time spent throughout that relationship was me focusing on helping her and making sure that she was okay. And I kind of just lost touch with myself and where I was emotionally. And so when she broke up with me, like, I guess like the time spent with us dating and all that emotion kind of just building up was finally let out, and I realized that I was not in a right state of mind, and I guess like this lust kind of feeling, because I wouldn't categorize what we had as love. I mean, I really wouldn't. What we had was more or less, we couldn't wait to spend time with one another, just to have that physical, you know, feeling with one another. And it wasn't necessarily just, I want to hang out with you. I mean, at times it'd be like, it's nice hanging out with you and spending time with you. But it was more so us diving in and just figuring out who we are to one another and just getting as close as we could to one another. And so we never really had that definition of love. And so it's like, and I could argue that could be a fair share of high school relationships aside from the ones that are the anomaly. But, it definitely took a toll on me emotionally because I still don't know what love is. I'm still trying to figure this shit out, man. But just then it was weird. It was rough, and it kind of just all fell apart in that one moment. At first I thought we were fine. Then she kind of started to grow distant. I didn't really pick up on it because I thought we were fine. And then she was like, "Yeah, it's not working." And I was like, "Oh, so are we breaking up?" And she was like, "Yeah," and that was it. And I didn't talk to her for a while. We tried to get touch back on base. Tried to get back with one another, and outside forces kind of just stopped that from happening. And then it just me understanding that there's more to this existence and more to just what love really offers than what I was getting in this kind of lust scenario.
So this question that I have kind of applies to every single one of y'all. Would y'all say that y'all fell out of love?
No. I don't. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Does love fade? Do you think love fades?
But I guess did what we have, was that love? I mean, were you in love with who you broke up with?
I was, and I still am. I love that person with all my heart, but that doesn't mean that we need to be together.
This goes back to the category thing. Did your love change from a romantic love or a familial love, like the way you love girls?
Well, to me, I don't really think about it in categories like that, because to me love is love, a deep caring for someone regardless of what your relationship is. But there's definitely different types of attraction. I loved her, but I was also romantically attracted to her at the time, and I still love her, but I'm not romantically attracted to her. But I think that's more of a distance thing. We haven't spoken as much as we used to, or spent as much time together.
I mean, I think at that point it's more about the denotation and connotation of love, because pulling out big words here, but
oh no.
Denotation tends to be the actual definition, while connotation is just
an implied definition.
Yeah. So I know for a lot of people, the connotation of love is that romantic love that when two people are walking down a beach holding hands, one might call that love, the connotation of it. But the denotation of love is kind of what we discussed earlier about that intense caring for someone. So that way it's indistinguishable from, let's say, a romantic partner and your mother.
Yeah, I also feel love has to have that kind of we've been through hell and back type trial and tribulations. I mean, without this kind of feeling of that you guys are at each other's throats. You had this period of time where you just you're off and on with just speaking. I feel like that's needed to further progress what you have and what you're wanting to have, because not everybody can say that they've sailed smooth seas, with their relationship. I mean, if you have, then please hit me up and explain to me how. But it's just love being such a trippy topic as it is, and kind of just us just not fully understanding it, and kind of just giving our I guess tunnel vision versions of what we feel it is as of now, because I don't think any of us have really experienced the full effects of love. I mean, unless we have anyone sharing, then
well, no, because I mean, are we still talking about that romantic love, or are we just
about love? Because I have a story of love that has nothing to do with romantic love, but love for God.
Oh, okay.
So I grow up. No, I don't, because I don't believe in God. Whoa. But look, growing up, my family. Well, I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic place, but surprisingly, my family wasn't Catholic. We were Orthodox Christian. So I grew up going to an Orthodox Christian church with my grandfather every Sunday. We'd wake up, go to Stripes, which is the local, it was like a Texas chain gas station, and we'd have our breakfast burritos, then we'd go to church, and then we'd go home. But I don't want to use the term brainwashing, but to me, as a child, that's what it felt like. Because I didn't know anything besides religion, and to me, I'm like, I cannot love anyone as much as I love God. So that really, I mean, we're children, so that's a conflicting thing. So I go home, and that's something I'm thinking about. I see my family, I'm like, I love my family, but the Bible says I can't love them as much as I love God. So what I'm not trying to bring up like just necessarily a love for a divine figure or love for religion, just love for things that aren't attached to people.
Also, kind of what Adrian brought up in
like
the beginning.
Love for materialistic things, love for a God, love for oneself. I mean, you're a person, but it's not a love going out. It's love within.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel, Drew, how do you feel about that, honestly? Because I know, because you...
The religious thing?
Well, just kind of like a love that's greater than, so I guess sort of the religion thing, but also kind of just like...
Just love that doesn't relate to a specific person. It could be like a material thing, a divine figure, a feeling, an obsession with something.
Well, I think we all have those kind of loves. Like, I think if we didn't love each other, we wouldn't be sitting here and doing this. So I think that we have our own type of love, and that's different from the spiritual love, and it's different from the romantic love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to go back to that spiritual love, are you religious still?
Oh, right. So, okay. So,
I want to hear that.
Since I grew
okay. And if you are, do you have a spiritual love?
I am currently not religious. Growing up, I did grow up with an Orthodox Christian family, but I was a very carnal Christian. I would just go to church and I'd call myself a Christian.
Gotcha.
But around the age of like 11, 12, 13, I actually started devoting my life to Christianity and to God. And I became obsessed with the idea that God is the only thing that matters.
So do you feel that things like religion, because
and that's why I said the brainwashing thing, because obviously first, I'm not anti-religious at all. I don't believe in God anymore for reasons, personal reasons, but I'm not anti-religion because I don't hate religion, and I don't mind people who are religion, but to me the effect that religion had on me and the experience with God, quote unquote, that I had was not a pleasant one, and it was honestly probably the worst thing in my life. And afterwards I just felt like I wasted the earliest years of my life being brainwashed by an apparition.
Yeah, and so do you feel that and I guess this is a question for everybody here, do you feel that parents really try to, even whether it be in a divine power or whether it just be the concept of love itself, do parents try to groom their children into having an idea of what love should be or should not be? Or do you think that kind of the actions that they take kind of create this focal point of like, this is what I should do or this is what I want, type of thing, where they either have their expectations set high or they set their expectations low?
Well, yes, but actually no. I think that parents might unintentionally, quote unquote, groom their child.
Oh, well, groom's kind of a bad word, but just...
But I think that they're doing what they believe is the best because they love their child.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see them succeed, and so they're doing it through what they think is the best way to do that. And if that happens to be taking them to church, telling them what specific love, I guess that was your question?
Well, like, just kind of like how love should be, kind of just saying, how, I guess Disney kind of produces this idea of like what love should be. So kind of like the parents' standpoint on that, the parents kind of creating their own, like, I guess, mainstream idea of what love should be. And so like when the kid thinks about what love is, and they're like, hey mom, what should love be?
Well, I don't think that specifically I don't think that specifically lays on the parents, because that's like a mainstream type of thing. If you show your kids Disney movies, they're gonna be like, "Oh, prince and princess, that's love."
Gotcha.
I mean, some people like understand love from how their parents, like mom and dad, or mother, stepfather, stepmom, dad, or step parents, or even grandpa and grandma. I think they learned through their relationship. Like, when you're like a child, you think like your mom and dad are the happiest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But like as you grow older, like it's like, wow, my dad's hitting her, and I'm like, I'm not saying. I'm gonna stress this. I'm not saying that my family or other people's family are supposed to abuse each other. But some of us have grown in a household where that's very common.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people.
It's understandable. You start to notice a lot of things that goes sideways.
Yeah,
and that's when you start questioning the whole idea of love. And so the whole thing about the parents like raising their kids a certain way to love a certain way, because that's their experience.
Yeah.
Let's say well, given today's society, right? A lot of parents still try to, because a lot of parents are the older generation, you know, the baby boomers, or like the
boomers,
the earliest born millennials, right? So they have a lot of traditional values from like the 50s and the 60s. So would raising your kid to love the way the people in the past did, would that be like sort of toxic, or like is it even relevant in modern day?
Yeah, and so that wouldn't be relevant, because when you think about it, we can push it back as far as the early 1900s, where
technology,
and technology in a sense, but I think just how we've grown as a society and what we feel is a societal norm or not.
Social media.
Well, social media I think is fucking toxic, but we still use it, so follow our Instagram. But seriously though, so you know, going back to like something like the 1920s and just different authors during that time period, like
Mr. English major.
shut up. But I mean, it brings up a good point. So like something like Hemingway. So Hemingway wrote the Sun Also Rises, and it was kind of just from this perspective of everybody wants this one girl. Brett Ashley was kind of just this perfect figure in everyone's mind. Everybody that saw her was instantly drawn to her. She had this like affectionate and kind of infectious personality, and everybody just wanted to be around her.
Personality.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? But and so like when you start reading it, you're like, God, you know, I don't like her. You know, she's kind of just playing everybody off. You know, everybody who wants to be with her, she'll give them a taste, but then drop them off. Like in the beginning, she was talking to the main character who was in love with her about how she was divorcing her husband for a man in Scotland. And so, like, she was already having multiple people that she felt like she was in love with. But then as we get to the end of the story, she's sitting in a car with the main character, and she goes, you know, damn, we would have been so well together. And so it's this idea that, like, and I felt I understood her more throughout the story, and I almost felt bad for having this kind of odd and off-putting feeling for her. Because in reality, she just wanted to be understood, and she wanted that feeling of understanding and love, which is why she jumped from person to person.
She wanted that feeling.
Yeah, and so, but... And I guess in relation to what was originally asked, nowadays, someone who would just want to try and get a taste for, you know, different types of people to kind of get a feel for what they want would be, you know, ostracized as someone who's a whore, you know, or kind of just someone who isn't a likable individual because they've been with, you know, everyone under the sun, in quotations. And so, like, you got to think about where society is moving as of right now, and what we feel is something that should be well in the process of love, and well in the you know, vocal point and in view of what love should be. And then when love was held to such a higher standard, you know, where people would, you know, go to war and be, you know, hanging on to dear life because they had love, you know, they had someone waiting for them, you know, and it was just, I don't know.
Well, okay, so
I don't think that people nowadays are ostracized like that. I think especially after, you know, like the hippie movement in the 60s.
Yeah.
Love is a completely different thing, and I think that most people, even if you had like a lot of sexual partners, or even just relationships, I think that that's seen like, oh, okay, that's just, you've been with that many people before.
Well, I will actually disagree with that because, you know, I'm not one to get into drama, and I know this is probably more prevalent at a younger age than at an older age. But in high school, you hear about this one person who's kind of dating this other person. Next thing you know, they're dating somebody else, and then everyone like around school is basically talking about how they're. I'm trying to use like a nice word to say a not so nice thing.
Thank you,
Ken. But yeah, thought. They were basically calling her a thought. Because of how quickly, like in the span of a few months. Like, she would already be with
she becomes the black sheep.
Yeah, and then when, you know, people are talking about her, you know, they're at some points they're even almost making fun of her because of how her lifestyle has become, and I feel people do get ostracized still for.
I think that's more of a. I think that's more of a maturity thing, especially since you're talking about being in high school about it.
But I mean, I think even then, not to like cut you off, but like even then, it's still that idea that it still happens. I mean, obviously, yeah, in high school it happens, but I mean, even kind of the runoff after high school, you know what I mean? It's gonna take a while before you start snapping into that maturity of like, oh, you know, they've been with X amount of people, I could give two shits, you know? You're kind of rolling into this idea of like, you need to figure that out for yourself. And I mean, maturity is a big proponent in that, but I mean, still, and nonetheless, I think that it still happens in the high school setting, and even in the runoff into like life, if you will, it still happens.
I agree with that too. Like you said, like the whole body count like situation. It's like if you really love somebody, why would you care about their previous relationships? Like that's all. Like I used to have this ideology that like she has to be like
Perfect.
a normal functioning human being, and then I realized nobody on this effing planet is a normal functioning human being. Everyone has flaws, and it's like, you just gotta understand. And if you like really like care and like have passion for this person, then it's like it shouldn't matter what they've been through or like how they treat certain things, or even if they talk funny or they they correct your grammar. Sorry, if the camera was on, it's me punching a table because I hate it when someone tries to correct my grammar.
It's the NSA, right? So okay, so one thing that I heard a lot that I've been thinking about the entire time we were talking is the loving of multiple people. What do you think is worse, physical or emotional infidelity?
God.
Well, see, what do you mean? Because
let's say you're in a relationship with someone, right? Would you feel a lot more attacked if this other person had sex with another person, or would you feel more attacked if while you were in a relationship, let's say she breaks up with you, right? Or they break up with you, and then
2 days later
they go tell someone that the entire time they love someone else.
So you're not talking like polyamorous relationships. You're just
No,
talking about.
I'm
Like,
talking about
straight up cheating?
infidelity. Infidelity.
straight up like
Infidelity being like
unfaithful.
unfaithfulness. So in case we're using big brain words.
Adultery. You know.
Yeah.
all that. What do you think hurts more?
But I think both could be held to almost I emphasize the word almost, the same standard of pain. I mean, because either way it's going to suck when someone, loves someone else while being with you. Because then at that point you're kind of just sitting there and you almost feel like you wasted your time.
Like what's the point?
So here's one argument. You guys said that the past doesn't matter. That's what you said, right?
The past doesn't matter.
It shouldn't.
If you love them, then it doesn't matter what they did. Because you can love them for a variety of reasons.
Unless there's like situation where the past usually catches up to them.
Oh yeah, like they have.
But then that's more of lying.
That's the plot of Mad Men. Anyways,
okay.
No, but like, because look, we're talking about not whether the love is socially acceptable. Because there's the woman who married Charles Manson. She was obsessed with him. She loved him, right? We know what Charlie Manson did. Although he didn't physically commit the murders.
Clarify for people who don't know.
Right,
Who doesn't know who Charles Manson is?
Okay, so Charlie Manson.
Charles.
Charles.
Is it Charlie?
Charlie Manson.
He was in high school with them. It's okay.
So Manson in the like sort of mid to late 60s, he had this sort of following that a lot of people call a cult. Yeah, and it was a very exclusive cult. And one thing that they obviously didn't like was people that weren't their kind, hence the swastika. But what they did, because Charles Manson plotted out these murders, and a few members of his family, quote unquote, his followers, carried the murders out for him. But he still got arrested and I think life. I don't know.
Yeah.
He got
He's
sentenced.
still in prison.
Yeah,
he died. He died in prison.
Oh, he died?
Yeah, he recently died.
Yeah, he died.
Like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was like recently.
Or actually, or a year ago.
It was like a year ago.
But, but basically, it's not. Wait, I lost my train of thought because
he died
I'm
2 years
surprised you
ago,
didn't
2
know
years
what
ago.
Charles Manson is.
Hey, I never said I didn't know. I'm
But
saying to clarify for the people who don't
Yeah, but
know.
essentially what he did was he manipulated misfitted teenagers with drugs and alcohol and came up with these whack-ass murders and had them commit it because they were just nuts.
Oh yeah, right.
He's-
Yeah,
he's-
his wife.
I'm
Because
taller than him.
That's
I'm literally taller than him.
He was short,
Okay,
he was
so
short.
basically, his wife loves him regardless of all of that because he orchestrated all those things. He brainwashed all those people. He had people carry out murders for him, but they chose to love that person because of that reason.
Well, they're both
regardless
psycho.
of their paths.
So
are you
Match
asking whether
up.
the individual, it's about the individual person, or if it's socially acceptable?
About what?
The-
Because I forgot what I said.
The
too.
past.
Yeah,
Not
you
only
bring up the
because of their past.
Because if we say the past doesn't matter, and it says, "Hey, I love you no matter what." Does that mean people are able to kill just because? I mean, they love somebody. Kind of how the followers basically. I mean, I'm gonna use the word love. They basically loved him, and they're willing to take out those murders. Is that acceptable?
Well, see,
I'm gonna say no because I don't think killing's okay.
But that brings up the morale and ethicality of killing. First of all,
Okay,
why
we
killing?
don't condone killing
Well,
because
no,
you're making it
obviously,
sound.
yeah, I don't condone killing, but it
If-
breaks
if
down.
we
It
had
breaks
a-
down into something heavier. It's a discussion for another day and
Okay.
time.
If the Colosseum wasn't taboo, right now, I would be all over that. I would watch you love like Nerf wars in that thing, dude.
That'd be
No,
fun.
no real guns, just Nerf wars.
All right.
And
So
You're keeping it PG.
But I think what we're looking at is like how far will we go for love? I think
Yeah, how
that's
far
is that
will-
what you're trying to refer to? How far will
Basically,
we
yeah,
go
because
for
I feel
love?
like there should be limitations.
well, think about the Crusades.
Mainly-
See, the exact.
Well,
I was gonna
I
point
mean,
at that.
Here's the thing, though. Like, I feel there should be limitations based on what society says. The reason I
I
say that,
beg to differ.
okay, well, because
We live in a society.
most of the things that
Most
happen
definitely.
are because of society. Our definition of love comes from the experience we've had as society and individuals in this society. So I believe that based on the times, that what is acceptable and what is not should be based around the times, because we can't just say like if society, or actually that's a counterpoint I guess when I say, so never mind.
Well, I feel like someone like Emerson would 100% disagree with that. So Emerson was a writer who really was on the bandwagon that we should think for ourselves versus kind of conforming into society. And I think that's what you were going to try to point out, Drew.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that happens. Like the Stonewall riots. People were interracial couples. I think that's like a big thing, and that was okay at the time, quote unquote. But clearly, it's not acceptable to just let people like berate other people because they're different than the norm.
Yeah, but it most certainly happened. They were definitely cast out of the society for kind of bringing up these new and different norms. And you guys were gonna say something about the Crusade. I'm actually kind of interested in what you were going to.
No. You the brought it up, so.
All right. So basically, what I thought of the Crusades because, the whole thing about not condoning killing. Like, how far would you go? Would you kill someone because of love that you have for someone?
Or in the name of God.
That's
yeah,
still love.
that's a love for God. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing I was like talking about. Like that love.
Think of war.
What
Like-
constitutes love for God?
Or even like the Great War or World War II.
Yeah.
People said they're fighting for their country, and that's a love. Like, just that sentence that's in itself. Like, what are you fighting for? Can get people to just go out
Like a rally.
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Does that mean people can do anything for love? If it's truly meant,
What do you mean by any
Because if
Like-
we're going to talk about war and love for the nation, we could extend that to the people of the nation, to a specific person in the nation, to just the person you love.
Mhm.
So
Like Charles Mason, those teenagers probably love that man, and you're like, yeah, let's go kill.
Well, I mean, yeah, they most definitely did.
Wait. If we're talking about war, though, that's a whole different idea. That's hatred.
Well, I think
Well,
that's a
yeah,
love.
like, you
That's a
could-
love that boils into hatred.
It's like a
Where,
sense,
where does the line? Where's
it's
the
like a
line?
sense of nationalism. That's where it can get dangerous. It's because you may love your country and that's patriotism, but once you start hating because of your love, that can boil over into nationalism, which is dangerous.
Well, I
So
mean, but that puts limitations on what you can do with love, just because if people are just focused, if we're gonna put limitations on love, that's gonna mean that there's some things we can do and some things you can't do because of love. How do we define those standards?
Okay, so to get this a little start closing off a little bit. Do you think that love and hatred propose the same emotions? Like you can get the same feeling in love as you can in hatred?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get gratification off of hating someone.
Because like I said about war, how you said it's a sense of nationalism, or you hate another country or dislike or going to war with them. Do you think that hatred is the same as love?
I don't think so.
Well, I think it may just be because using one of the wars for example, so World War II,
Burning passion.
something like Pearl Harbor just happened. You know, you're a United States citizen and you hear that Pearl Harbor was just bombed by Japanese. You know, you instantly feel that sort of hatred towards the Japanese. I don't hate Japanese, by the way, right now. So this is all in the historical pretense of what's going on. But you had this form of dislike and hate for the Japanese for killing all these people in Pearl Harbor, blowing up the harbor within itself, and then kind of just what's happening in the world right now, the World War II, occurring, and so you're gonna love for people to enlist and fight for your country. You're gonna do all that you can to support your troops to go and fight for your country, so you can kind of make up for what you've lost. So I think that love and hate can be of the same intention, but of just different feelings. You can have love because you love someone. You can have hate because you hate someone, but it's going to be that same sort of feeling. Because if someone you hate does something wrong, you're gonna thrive off of that. You're gonna enjoy what they just made, the mistake that they made. If someone that you love does something amazing, you're gonna love what they did. And so it's that feeling of. It can be played by both parts. It can be on both sides, and I feel that it could just be the product of the same root.
I say that it's not the same because I was thinking about the whole Spinoza thing, how he breaks human emotion into 3 types, right? The desires, the pleasures, and the pains.
Yeah.
I would consider love to be a pleasure and hatred to be a pain. So, I mean, all things can be experienced in the same magnitude, but I don't think it's the same feeling at all.
Have you ever experienced a situation where, you love someone so much it hurt?
Well, I feel like that's just...
There we go.
Okay, so...
That changes you, dude.
I guess for that context, it really boils down to how you act, because you've never loved someone as much as you've loved that person. So everyone's going to react differently to that, right?
Yeah.
Some people are going to react absolutely amazingly, right? Because it's something they've never experienced before. But other people, like Samuel Medina right here, are going to react like absolute morons and become obsessed with this person because you have no idea what to do with that emotion. And I guess it's not love to the point where it hurts, but love to a point where everything they do that's not with you or because of you hurts.
Yeah, love till it hurts.
But that's not... I'm not loving them. It doesn't hurt that I love them. It hurts that they don't love you back.
Oh.
So, are you telling me...
But it only hurts because...
Which wouldn't that be loving being a pain?
Well, yeah, so that would be... Just in the sense that you don't like the fact that they're not loving you back. And so you're kind of just having that self-pain of, you love them. I mean, and I feel that, I love, my ex to the point where I just couldn't anymore, because I realized that, they're going to go off and do their own thing.
I feel like the pain that came to me from that was a self-hatred type of pain.
And I mean, you're going to feel, even self-hatred, but you're going to feel that, I wish that were me type situation, They get with someone else.
I wish that were me.
Yeah, they get with someone else and you're like, damn, man,
yeah.
we could have done something.
But that's exactly what I'm saying, though, because the love thing, that's a pleasure, or at least in this scenario, it's a desire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the pain is the self-hatred, not the love.
Yeah.
Because I hate myself that they didn't love me back at the time.
But that's only because you love them. So I think there's definitely a correlation between love and hatred, depending on the situation, how strong one can be. For example, you love them so much, you absolutely hated the fact that they didn't love you back. And there's still that correlation. Your love for them turned to hatred for, them not loving you, almost.
I suppose
something along those lines. And sometimes people are just, back to the World War II example, you love your nation so much, the fact that your nation got hurt makes you hate the fact that it did, And then that hatred turns to something else, and we see it all the time. There's always going to be that correlation between love and hate. Some people go, I'm going to use this loosely, but crazy people, or people that get extremely obsessive over relationships, absolutely hate the idea of their significant other being with somebody else, and it happens all the time.
Well, I guess that answers one of the earlier questions. Does love, have a correlation? Well, at least is love like do you have to be happy if you're in love? Like,
happiness.
Is love just, happiness? How does love relate to happiness? Because from what we can tell so far, at least in our experiences, like we said, I don't think we've had enough life experience to know what love is.
Or even know what happiness feels like in love.
Yeah, but like, from what we've seen, or what we've talked about, it's all tragic, and there has been no happiness.
I mean, there's those moments, like,
happiness in the moments, but just happiness overall because it happened. Like, it's a very difficult thing to, because that's one of the ideas that a lot of people try to stress.
Yeah, like, don't cry.
Don't be sad that because it's over. Yeah,
as long as it happened.
Yeah.
Well,
be happy that it happened, but.
I think it's just
any of us truly happy because it happened and not because it's over.
I mean, I think we can all agree that any past relationship we had taught us something valuable, not only about ourselves, but just how we should worship ourselves in a sense. And so, I feel that something like that, and just kind of just having that ignorance of you feel disdain, it's like towards the person that you broke up with. It's just it's almost an ignorance, because you got to think about what they taught you about yourself. You gotta appreciate the moments that you did have. Appreciate the moments that you had with who we all spent time with. And I feel like that should be what is held to such a high standard. So
that's what love is.
Yeah,
what we talk about when we talk about love. Raymond Carver.
Who?
Raymond Carver.
I've always heard the term that love is like a fire, and how when you first, when you think of developing a crush, I think you're pouring gasoline on in a pit, right? And as soon as something starts, that thing lights up boom, it's going off.
Well, it's definitely a strong emotion.
Yeah, it's a strong emotion, initiating, starting a relationship. It's wow, I can't believe I did this and I got this far, and she likes me and I like her, and it's great.
Well, if we can understand the idea that it's a very strong, it's a passionate thing, it's a very strong emotion, does our age really matter whether we can determine we feel love or not, at least our life experiences? Because can't you love someone at our age with the experiences that you've had?
Well, that could go into saying that so people who are older have more wisdom than someone who's younger, So I don't think necessarily that.
I don't think that's necessary.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it's true. But I'm saying that could be, linked to that. That's what that's saying. That's But I feel like love. The only way we will ever, young or old, the people that you fall in love with, the person you're marrying in middle school, high school, whenever that happens, that occurs. And that's when we fully understand what we want from love and what we feel is the definition of love. Because I think there isn't... Sure, we can psychologically say that love is this, this, and this. But, at the end of the day, love is just however you perceive it and how we perceive it, and just how we want to go about understanding it for ourselves, for the person that we're in love with, and just, and how to differentiate that between the emotions of something that's positive and the emotions of something that's negative.
All right, well, I think this would be a perfect stopping point, and I just want to go around the table and ask the question that we started with. Do you think there's value to love, at least in today's society? Kevin?
Okay. Is there value of love in our society?
Yeah, is there value to love? Is it still relevant today?
I believe it is, even if I was getting to that.
Let the man speak.
Yeah, love is something that happens to, the individual. It's a strong emotion of caring, whether positive or negative or whichever effects it has. It's always going to matter to the individual. So, Hunter?
Yeah, so I think that there will always be a value in love. It's something that will always teach us, how to not only love ourselves better, but just how to love other people a lot better. And then how to really take a hold of getting into relationships.
I mean, yeah, I agree. But love is not something that you get into a person, like I said in the beginning. It's a feeling that of purpose, passion, motivation, not through people, but through school, or even when it comes to music or something, anything like that. If you do something you care about and you love, it gives you a reason to do it. People, working at, let's see. People becoming president. People just don't say, "Hey, I'm gonna be president." That's it. they like work their like cheeks off because they want to do something that they think is going to change not only them but other people. So that love is just going to bring them to do this, that, etc.
How about you, Sam?
Well, I definitely think love is valuable, and it's a very essential learning skill. And I think that's all I have to say about it, because I feel we can experience love at any age or any experience. It's just the idea of what you do with those emotions of love that counts.
True?
Yeah, I think love is extremely valuable in today's society, even if it's not for one specific person. As long as you're loving yourself, or if you love your friends, or even your community, I think it's great to have.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the end. Thank you so very much for listening. I think we can all collectively agree that we had a good time doing this, and we're most definitely excited to get more of these out for you guys. Again, like we said in the beginning, feel free to, comment whatever you have to say, send us things about how you feel about this discussion, what you would want from other discussions, topics to talk about, anything like that. And once again, thank you very much. You guys have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you for listening.